Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tea Time. I'm Thuy.
Finger in my eye. I'm Edith. Hi. Welcome.
Apparently,
I'm ready, I suppose.
Edith didn't know that we're recording. She's just...
I was scratching my eyeball. I had some in my eye. I still do, but now I'm going to pretend I don't. Hi, everyone. How we doing? Welcome to Thuy and Edith Argue.
Also known as Tea Time.
Tea time. A little bit of tea.
With Thuy and E.
Yes. I like it.
Edith, do you like my shirt?
No, I don't like your shirt, Thuy. It's horrible.
I wore another lavender one that says Spartan, but it has the picture of the Spartan.
The Spartan head,
helmet,
like what's in the little circle there, except it's bigger.
Yes, so this is another one.
The same emblem on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted you to know. I don't think I've repeated a shirt yet. Just so you know.
Well, I'm so happy for you. How many shirts have you worn? Like, how many episodes have we done? 927?
Close.
And you've not worn one shirt twice?
I believe so.
If I have to run through those things in my mind. Let's see.
Nice shirt that you're wearing there.
Thank you. In honor of our good friend, Mr. Tony Spain.
Yes.
Rest in peace, T.
Edith and I don't think we've ever sparred in the boxing ring. We've done drills
You were
and stuff
too
together.
scared to come up against me. Only Heather and Bella. They were the only girls that I fought.
Because all three of you are sweaters.
Do you mean we work hard? We all three of us work hard.
They profusely sweat. It looks like a rainstorm just drenched their body, and they're in the ring, and every time Edith goes to throw a punch, sweat comes flying and flinging everywhere. I have to wear like a whole body hazmat suit to box against you.
And you also need 3 of your friends.
3 of my ninja friends?
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
Doing your shitty thing in
All
the
I
ring.
have to do is duct tape some spiders on my boxing gloves.
Or shrimp. I'll get out of the way of those.
That is her kryptonite. See, I know.
Yeah, boxing. Well, if we didn't have gloves on and we went to the mat, it'd be a different kind of fight, huh?
I don't do wrestling. That means that involves more touching.
Yeah, I know. And you get your legs wrapped around in weird places. You got butts in your face and knacks in your nose. It's like, no, thank you.
I mean, it would be fun probably, but you'd have to wear the appropriate gear.
I don't know how much fun it would be getting smashed in the head with a table or a chair.
Oh, that would be fun to do to you.
It would be fun to do to somebody, but being the recipient, you know what I'm trying to say. Being that person at the other end of the chair is not cool.
My grandma, this is so weird. I think actually I can speak for all Asians. All Asian grandmas
get hit with a chair or a table.
They loved watching WWF.
Really?
Back in the 80s, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Really?
My grandma loved it. Every Saturday morning, she woke up, she turned on the TV, and that's what she watched.
So you watched it then? You were subjected to it occasionally?
You had to. There's one TV in the whole house.
Right.
If that's what grandma was watching, I guess that's what I'm watching.
Yeah, well, we never watched... growing up, I never watched wrestling. Obviously, I'd heard of Hulk Hogan. I'd seen Hulk Hogan. He became huge.
Yep.
Back in the 80s, was it? But other than that, and like I watched the Netflix of Mr. McMahon last night.
Yeah.
And some of the wrestlers that were on there, some of the names, I'd heard of them before, but I know I would never recognize them in a lineup. I'd not watched them,
really? Okay.
Booker T. I recognize his name. I can't say I've ever seen him in a ring fighting, but I remember Booker T. Hulk Hogan, obviously.
There's a lot of them. My grandma, I'm going to tell you right now, my grandma had her favorites. She had the ones that she recognized, but then she had like the ones that were her favorites. Mm-hmm. She would always cheer whenever Hulk Hogan came on.
All right, everybody did. My mum did too. Hulk
Hogan. She did not
cheer because we never watched it. But
well, mind you, all of you viewers, by the way, my grandma doesn't speak a word of English. So she was watching all this completely oblivious to actual words that they were saying and the commentators. She had no idea what's going on. She was just making up the story in her own head. And she knew Hulk Hogan was great, that the fans loved him, and what a show he would put on with all that. She didn't like Andre the Giant. She loved Jimmy Superfly Snuka, because he seemed to be a good guy. He did his little Hawaiian dances and, Samoan or whatever ethnicity, whatever that he, I guess, associated with. But she just loved his dances. And there's a few other ones. Like once in a while, she liked Macho Man, but she didn't like those girls that would come up sometimes and wore a little bit
next to nothing
outfits. Yeah, she didn't like that because she was like,
a little more conservative.
She didn't think that was good, but meanwhile, it was okay for these dudes in their underwear
to be in pair of little tight shorts
to romp around,
right?
But she didn't think the girls were appropriate. She loved, there were certain characters. She didn't like Jake the Snake. Like, why is he going around gallivanting around the ring with a snake around his neck?
Okay,
and then she kind of liked Jim Hacksaw. He had like a 2x4 and he waved the American flag around and there was ones that she liked, and she liked the tag team ones. And when the guys were cheating, so to speak, like when the ref was looking somewhere else and
they'd smack someone.
Yep, and the partner of the tag team would like hold them back while they pummeled each other. She would just start yelling and screaming, "Turn around, look, they're cheating." Just things like that. She got into it. Yeah, funny. She got into it. It was so funny. But
that's funny.
I've watched the McMahon Netflix series as well.
Yeah, and that is long.
Wow. But talk about a soap opera.
Oh my gosh. He was all about work. Everything was business. He was cutthroat. He was a cutthroat businessman.
He didn't always start out that way. He had very humble beginnings. Yeah.
I mean, from birth.
Right.
You're right. Up until 12, he had a pretty rough life to start off with. When he became 12, I think that's when he first met his real father, right?
Right.
Because his stepdad used to abuse him.
Right. He had several stepdads.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I guess the one that stayed longest, used to beat the crap out of him.
And his mother sexually abused him.
He had a rough childhood.
Yeah, up until the age of 12. And then he met his real father, apparently.
Well, also going back, just so our viewers would know, his wife, Linda McMahon, they went to, I guess they didn't really even go to the same school, but their moms worked at the same place. And that's how they later on got to know each other, because their moms were friends at this like military base and they worked there.
Yeah, she said that his mom introduced him to Linda. Right. When she was 16, he was 17.
Well, they knew each other when he was younger. It was like 13 and 17.
I think
13 and 16, 13 and 17.
They got married when she was 17.
Right. They got married years later when she just graduated from high school. Wow. Like
been
very young.
A long, long time.
So they knew each other because he would come over and hang out at Linda's house, and because their moms were friends. And he admittedly would say in interviews that he liked the stability that her home had.
That Linda's home had?
Yeah.
Right. Because she had a mom and dad, and they were middle class.
They were Baptist, nice conservative. And so he appreciated that, and he found himself spending a lot of time there. So I guess it was just natural for some kind of relationship to form, and asked her to marry him when he was 21 and she was 17. He went to a military academy, and then later on she went to the same academy and studied French while he studied, interestingly enough, marketing.
Really?
Yeah. So he used obviously whatever he learned to apply to his ambitions later, because whether you like his endeavors or not, he was a good businessman.
Yeah, I mean, he built the empire, right?
He did.
He built the whole empire.
Bought it from his father. That's what his fathers did, and that's why I guess why his dad was gone.
His father was a promoter, yeah. So, And when he met his dad when he was 12 or 13, he started hanging around with him and going to places with him. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be exciting, right? Going to all these
Sure.
big shows and stuff and watching these people in the ring. So yeah, he started working alongside his dad, going to the promotions and doing all the promoting and stuff. But he got his big break when his dad refused to pay the announcer that was supposed to announce one of the things. His dad refused to pay the guy what he wanted.
Right.
And the guy thought, I'm going to call his bluff and I say, if you don't pay me, then I'm going. And he told his son, okay, you're the announcer.
Yep.
And apparently it was horrible.
At first, yeah. It was fake it till you make it. And he was bad, people would say.
Yeah. But they said that he used to tell stories about the fighters when they were going up. So he was kind of entertaining because he wasn't just standing there. He was telling stories, which sounded like, oh, look at his muscles. Look at the size of those muscles. Who wants to be on end of one of those?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. So it made it engaging. And I guess people were listening to the story behind the fighter, behind the person.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's been out for a while, obviously. And I never used to watch it. I don't watch it. That's not one of the things that I watch is the wrestling. I've seen it. I can't say I haven't seen it. Obviously, I've seen it. But I wouldn't have known, had I not watched this thing last night, that all these characters are really just characters. It's not like they're like, okay, this is going to be your name, pick it out of a hat. They have this whole spiel about them. They build them up.
Right.
There's a storytelling, so that's how they become. Whether they're going to be a star or not is all depends on the audience, really, right? Whether the audience likes you, how much in Vince's case, Vince McMahon's case, he was like, whatever the audience are going for, that's what's going to bring in the money. So we have to help it along.
Vince knew enough about marketing and whatnot and branding to think to himself, we've got to have an antagonist and a protagonist. We had to have the hero and a villain. Mm-hmm. And then that's how you get people to cheer for it and to show up, and then causing the drama, the rift between the two.
Right.
And that's basic. I mean, all Shakespearean plays are like that. It's set up on that premise. You have to make it just so super clear who the bad guy is. Mm-hmm. You have to spell it out for them because these people aren't maybe the smartest. Right. Back in Shakespearean times, they were the peasants that wanted the entertainment. So I don't want to say that the people who go to these things are dumb, but it's going to be the populace, the majority of them are going to be the ones that just kind of want, like, I don't want to say like lowbrow entertainment, but it is. It's like when watching the gladiators go and beat themselves almost to the death. They didn't fight to the death, but almost to the death. But it was just for entertainment. It was just for sport. Right. So this is like the basics of that. He knew like the formula. Bad guy, good guy, cause tension, good guy wins.
Right.
Crowd erupts in cheer.
Yeah.
And I remember even when I went on a tour to the Colosseum, our tour guide was saying that emperors knew that as well with the people, because they knew enough that if they had the favor of the people, they're going to love them as an emperor, mm-hmm. as their ruler, right? So they, I guess, allowed these games to happen, these gladiator spectacles mm-hmm. at the Colosseum. And when it came to the emperor having to decide like yay or nay, it wasn't to the death. That's a misconception, by the way. But whether it was a yay or nay, if they got the win or not, mm-hmm. then the emperor would do it to appease the people. Like, all right, he's fine, or mm-hmm. whatever, or no, mm-hmm. he lost. So they knew that sort of like that psychology behind it. And Vince McMahon, even though he's a creep in most people's eyes, he was still a very shrewd and good, savvy businessman.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Do you disagree with what I'm saying?
He was a businessman.
Yeah.
He was shady. He was sly. He was underhand. He was cutthroat.
Yeah.
But He was a businessman.
In the world of business,
that's how you have to be. I mean, you
all
don't
is
have
fair.
to be that way. It wasn't exactly fair. Like, the way, well, I mean, it was legal. What he did was legal. Like, when he first
But
started
ethically-
out collecting all the stars from other territories, just like
Right.
the mob, he was underhand and shady. And I think they even threatened his father. Like, people from these other territories were like, hey, your son's a piece of shit, you know, you better watch his back and all the rest of
Right.
it. And the kid were like, I don't care.
Yeah, he got threats
Vince
like,
were
hey,
like-
you might find him at the bottom of a river.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, you guys like fishing, right?
Which we should have warned everybody. There's going to be some spoilers if you haven't seen this.
If you haven't seen the show.
This documentary yet.
Mystic Man. It's worth a watch, that's for sure. It's well worth a watch. He was at one point when he was having his interview, I thought to myself, he reminds me of Donald Trump.
Really?
There was a certain question that they asked him, and it was just the way he answered it, like trying to answer it. He had his hands. He used his hands, and pretty much it was just like, who cares?
Oh, was it regarding
Oh,
steroids?
sorry, I don't know if it were the steroids, or I don't remember if it was the part about the steroids, or if when they were asking him, because he was saying that there was another wrestling federation. Well, it wasn't the federation. It was WCW, which was their rival, which was WWF's rival.
Right.
So the one chap on there who was talking, was his name Bischoff? No,
Eric. Yeah,
Mhm.
Eric Bischoff.
Bischoff, yeah. He was talking about how he went, and, you know, some people had just been let go, released from WWF.
Right.
So he brought them into the WCW. And in the interview, Vince McMahon was all upset, saying, oh, he was stealing these people from me. And the
Right.
interviewer says, well, wasn't that the same thing you did when you started out and went to all these other territories? And he just like used his hands and like, no,
Before
we did it right. But, you know, like,
Yeah, before the interviewer even asked that question, I already was asking myself that question
Right.
because I was like, you did the same thing.
It did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He did the exact same
But-
thing, and it wasn't with people who were no longer working for the WCW or the territories. They were still working for these territories at the time that he poached them.
Right.
They were like their biggest stars, and
Right.
he went and offered them more money.
Right.
But I mean,
But
I don't know how
WCW
much,
offered them more money,
yeah,
but they were free agents.
they were free agents. They didn't, in essence, steal them, poach them.
Right.
They went and, after they'd been released, offered them more money, better schedule, because apparently with WWF, they're working all year round, every day, 7 days a week.
Here's a side thing, right? And they worked all the time because he kept coming up with more events. He
Yep.
kept coming up with more things. Like there was Saturday night main event, and then he had the things that built up to WrestleMania, which was a great idea, by the way. You know, I thought that when he said that he came up with the idea, like every sporting event has like a culmination. It's the World Series or it's the Super Bowl. He goes, we can have one. Let's call it WrestleMania. He was on a 2-day vacation and he came up with
because
that.
his wife told him to take
Yeah.
a trip.
Yeah.
Take a trip, relax, and forget about work.
But all
It
he could think
worked.
about was work.
Yeah.
But so he thought of that idea and that was great. But then just all these things obviously called for all the wrestlers to work more,
More.
work day and night.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like they had to give up their Christmases.
They had to
with
give
their
up
families.
everything.
Yeah.
They had to give up everything.
And it's fine if they are doing it willingly and if they're getting compensated for such.
They were doing it willingly. They were, in
Right.
essence. They wanted to do it. That's what they wanted to do. I mean, he did take advantage of him. He didn't pay him much, and
Right.
he
Right.
made
But
him work
they can
all
go.
year round.
Yeah.
They could, but where to? Where would they go to? Even that one, Don't remember his name.
What's he look like?
The black guy.
Oh, that was Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And what was his name as a...
Oh, no, that was his name, Tony Atlas. Yeah, he was called like Anthony something, and then his wrestler name was Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas. So did he walk around with a globe?
Well, again, I mean, but that's why you said, where are they going to go? That's why having competition is always great, because now you have options. It's great for in real life, too, for people to have options, because then it keeps competitors competitive. But what you were saying previously about when they would go to the WCW, they weren't necessarily like recruited, but it was more like appealing because then they weren't paid, or they were paid more, and they didn't have to work as much. They almost like could make up their own schedule, it seemed like how many appearances they wanted to do a year. Almost, it seemed like that to me. So with that, they had to do like a different persona. They couldn't be called by their WWE or WWF name anymore. I thought that was interesting, because that was considered maybe like intellectual property. Like if I was Razor Ramon, now that I'm over here with WCW, I had to come up with a whole new persona. I could still maybe have the essence of Razor Ramon, but I can't be called that anymore. So then we're going to team up and we're going to be called the Outsiders or whatever.
Right.
You know, but I thought was interesting was Linda McMahon actually studied intellectual property. She actually, when they were still very newly married, they had their son. And then, of course, a few years later, they had their daughter in 1976. They filed for bankruptcy. She was pregnant with her daughter, Stephanie, and she filed for bankruptcy. Or not she, but both of them filed for bankruptcy because they had different ventures that they invested in, like another maybe sporting event, and they invested on Evel Knievel's jump across like Snake Canyon River, all that stuff, and it failed. So they filed for bankruptcy, and they moved. They had to sell all their things, and they moved to Gaithersburg, Maryland. And there, she took a job as a paralegal, and she studied intellectual property, which I thought was interesting because obviously that knowledge maybe came in handy later on, since she served as like a chairperson for the WWE in Vince's company. And so she probably knew about all that stuff. And that's why it was such an important thing to maintain the intellectual property of WWE and WWF. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, oh, okay, they know about that stuff. And then I think at one point, did they try to like sue WCW or the actual wrestlers for taking their stuff?
Yes, they tried to. He did. He was going to sue WCW, and was it the reporter Phil McKinnon or something?
Right.
Phil, the reporter. I think he was trying to sue those two people because the reporter said something about him and the steroid. I think this was the steroid part, right? It all kicked off with the wrestlers that are being forced to use steroids.
Right.
Something. So yeah. So first he's getting sued for illegal drugs, for the use of steroids or forcing his workers, which obviously, well, no, it's not obvious. But I suppose it's a catch-22. You need a job. He's telling you to do something. They all said that he never told us we had to do it, but he would allude to the fact that, hey, you're not that strong, maybe you need to be stronger, kind of thing, like how doctors come in.
Yeah, but that's a very generic, vague, he just said you have to work harder. He said, look, you got to do whatever you got to do.
You got to do whatever you got to do, but by the way, the doctor's coming today, so you might want to go see a doctor. He's got a bag full of toys.
I know, that's like finding loopholes and things like that, but with that, I mean, where do you draw the line? So with that, I actually would have to agree that he didn't tell them.
No, he didn't.
He didn't tell them to take steroids.
And he didn't tell them that they would be fired if they didn't.
And he didn't require them. Yeah, it's not anywhere like in their contract.
No.
So.
But they seem to think it was. They were all saying that, like Atlas said, he was doing steroids before he met Vince McMahon.
Right.
So, I mean, there were some big people on those shows.
there's some other things where you said like they allude to it, speaking of like alluding to things, but it never was like said. For instance, there was all these people that worked for the company that would say, yeah, he would have these sexual advances, and if I complied, next thing I know, my salary was doubled. And then if I didn't, then I was let
get
go.
my belt taken off me. Yeah.
Right. But those things, of course, I mean, he's not going to be stupid and put that in writing.
Obviously.
And he's not going to say it. He's not going to blatantly say those things. But I understand that they feel those pressures and everything. But again, they can leave. I know that.
He later dropped the charges against WCW and the reporter. He later dropped those. I don't know whether he knew he wasn't going to win or what, but he did drop those charges a little later. But he still went to court for the steroid stuff. He went in. Did you see when he had this neck brace on his neck?
He said he had neck surgery.
And he was moving his head around like this in his brace, like looking from side to side.
Well, maybe he couldn't do this.
He had full range of motion in that brace. If you got a brace on, it's holding you still. I mean, you're gonna be able to move slightly. I don't
know how bad.
Like this.
I don't know how bad the neck surgery is.
Did you see at one point his head was slanted, his collar was over here like this, and his head was just like leaning to the side? Like, what's he got on there?
Why didn't he just show up with like some crutches like Tiny Tim?
I know. A patch and a sling and bruises all over him.
I don't know, but he was a showman. He knew all about showmanship.
He was a total showman. He got his whole family into it.
Yes.
His whole family, including his wife. Did you see the part when he was macking on some woman and his wife was in a wheelchair behind him? Oh, it's all for the entertainment. Of course it is. Oh, what a sleaze.
Linda and Vince to this day are actually still legally married. They separated last year in the winter.
Is that when he got into trouble for sexual misconduct and had to resign from the company?
Yet again, because that wasn't his first time.
Right. It's been going on for decades, as you can see. I mean, some of the women who were interviewed, well, there was just one woman who was interviewed. Well, there were a couple, but one wrestler.
Right.
Wendy Richter.
Yes.
Who was... I mean, I think she was more so that about the belt stuff. She never said anything about any sexual misconduct. It was the other woman who played the nurse when she first started. She was pushing
the referee,
his wife around
the
in
first
the wheelchair.
referee.
The referee also.
Yeah, she was the first woman referee for something like that, those events, and her name was Rita.
Something.
Rita Marie, something like that.
Rita Marie, was it? Yes.
Yeah, and she went on like shows like Geraldo and other shows and claiming that he was trying to do all these things to her, grope her, and if she didn't comply, and that he actually did.
He did, yeah. First it were oral, and then she said when I want satisfying him, he ripped off her shorts or her jeans or whatever.
Right.
And he raped her. And then in the interview, when the interviewer asked him about it, he said, "Oh, it wasn't rape, it was consensual, fastening up his button." What a douche.
I'm not laughing at like the whatever people. I'm laughing at like your impression of him.
Right, okay.
But also, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like back when we were talking with like the P. Diddy and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a majority of people that at some point with the statistics and the odds, there's got to be a few instances where that actually happened. But at the same time, there's also got to be a handful where people are just falsely going up because they want their 10 seconds of fame. Don't you think? I'm not saying with her it is actually false, but imagine that you see like someone who's famous and you have like an interaction with them and they want maybe like some money out of them, and you'd be like, "Oh, you better this and that," or "I'm gonna accuse you of raping me or trying to rape me or groping me." I would imagine a lot of people do that. That's probably quite common.
Yeah. Do you think? Women
Sure.
are so shallow women. Shallow people.
Women who are trying to find
get rich quick.
Yeah.
That's just shallow.
There's people like that out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, there are people like
sadly.
that out there.
Again, I don't know about in her case, but I'm just saying that.
But I mean, that's so wrong to lie about something like that. It's so bad. I mean, do they not believe in karma, for one thing? Because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass one way or another.
Well, maybe because they got fired, or maybe because whatever. So now they're, bitter about it. So then they say, you know what? Since he fired me because I didn't continue with his sex requests, I'm going to say that he raped me. I'm not saying that's what happened, but who knows? That could have happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you get fired for the sex request, I mean, that's a case in itself. You don't have to comply, right?
But maybe
That's
they had
sexual
complied in the
harassment.
past and then they don't feel like doing it anymore, or it got more and more out of hand. So then they're just like, look, it's got to stop. And then because they said that.
Would chomp down on that dick. I would bite it
Oh
so
my
hard
goodness,
it
Edith.
comes clean off.
Jeez, I'm not even.
And then say, sorry, I got lockjaw. Sometimes it just comes and goes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they can only ask you to do it one time then, right? Then you don't ever have to do it again. What's he going to do? Take you to court? She bit my dick off. Why did I bite your dick off? Because you forced it in my mouth. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Take me to court. That's what you got to do.
Oh my goodness.
You got to put your teeth down, not your foot down. You got to put your teeth
This
down.
is the family show, Edith.
Oh, is it? Is it?
Since
Juice?
you think that Vince McMahon is such a creep, didn't you like it that the WCW was sort of giving him a little bit of his own medicine, but they
Yeah.
did it in a more like non-sleazy way, kind of.
I mean, well, it was sleazy if you saw their show. I never saw it. I never watched that. I never even heard of, what was it, WCW, which was new. Then Hulk Hogan and, what Brett was it?
Oh, you mean like when they recruited that
Yeah.
team? It was called NWO, the New World Order.
New World Order.
Right. They created their own
I vaguely remember those guys, like seeing Hulk Hogan all blacked out, like black clothes and stuff as opposed to his bright red and yellow colors and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I vaguely remember all that.
But what I mean by like not sleazy, but I mean like their tactics weren't as like kind of like you said, like Vince was going and stealing these guys, recruiting
When he
them.
started, yeah.
Right. So now he's getting a little taste of his own medicine. So to you, does that feel like very like justified? Like, yeah.
Kind of. It doesn't. It don't, because he's still like shoved one in their ass for no reason when they were leaving. Like he humiliated them on TV by taking the belt off of them or whatever he did. However he did it, like with Wendy Richter, like.
Yeah.
The ref called her out, but while her shoulder were up, like he said, I'm going to get to keep that belt one way or another. You're going to lose. Like she didn't want to give it up or whatever, and he wanted rid of her like her time were done.
I kind of agree with that, though. It's kind of like, dude, it's his business. He wants it back. Give it back. You know what I mean? That was almost a little bit childish. Like, no, it's mine. You know what I mean with that? So it's kind of like if she's not going to give it up, I'm going to do it in a way that's dramatic in front of like millions of people on TV. You don't want to give it up. You don't want to play the game. I'm going to force you to play the game and you're going to lose.
Right.
It was kind of like, I don't want to say like you agreed to it when you signed to like work for him, but
You probably did.
it's his rules.
Yes.
So you agreed to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You agreed to the script.
Yes.
Speaking
Because
of
that's
which,
all it is, right? It's all scripted.
we have to say it. We have to say the word.
It's
Kayfabe.
fake. Oh, kayfabe?
Kayfabe.
Right. You have to play the game.
Kayfabe. I had to look up the origins of that word. Is it English? Is it German? No one can really actually say, just that it's used a lot in the world of pro wrestling to mean acted out. And the origins come to be, like you said, to be fake. But of course, like all of the wrestlers, like you saw in the show, would say like, I am an entertainer, I'm a performer.
Which they obviously are.
They are.
I mean, some of that stuff was crazy stupid, obviously. I mean, I don't know what kind of entertainment that is, but like when we saw The Rock, when he came on, and like his grandfather and his dad, so it's like down the line, and then when he started, they didn't like him at first.
Right.
You know? And he went out and spoke from his heart when he told them, you know, you disrespectful assholes kind of thing. He said it obviously a little different, but that changed the whole platform for him when he came out and spoke from his heart and told them, look, show some respect.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just weird that kayfabe, there's actually a word for it. You can just say the word like make believe.
Right.
Just, you know, you're in a play and you're an actor who plays this role, and that's what it is. That's a storyline. But I guess maybe it's called kayfabe to describe that even outside of the ring, the story continues.
Right.
That they're still in character.
Like The Undertaker did all the time. He even said that, and like it was kind of creepy at one point when he walked through the door and he's just all solemn and he puts his glasses on, just walks away. And that's just out in public. Like if you saw him, you'd be like, whoa. He's really mean.
Right.
Right.
But, I mean, that part is actually kind of cool as long as people can realize
that they are still a character.
Yeah.
Right.
You see celebrities now, like Borat. He stays in character as Borat.
When you see him as Borat, but, I mean, he doesn't always dress like that. You might just see him and if he's Borat with his wig and his mustache, then he's Borat.
Right. And I hear even people like Will Ferrell will do things like that. Like if he's Buddy the Elf, if he goes on a talk show late night.
Like Buddy and he's Buddy.
And he's Buddy. He's not Will.
Right.
Yeah. So there's people like that, and it's fun, and it's for entertainment. So that's why when people say that like wrestling is like real, my grandma thought it was real. She thought that. I mean, yes, do they get injured? I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
They're doing a lot of physical stuff.
He had like 18 surgeries within I don't know how many years.
He said like 10 years. He had like 23 surgeries. Yeah. I'm sure they get hurt. They're doing physical stuff.
I mean, is someone jumping off a those beams like nearly in roof just to impress his dad? All I wanted you to say was that you're proud of me, Dad. Look what I can do. Bloody idiots.
What was worse was little boys like my brothers would try to
imitate them.
Do those moves at home.
Flying, chopping you, throwing you over the couch and stuff.
Yep.
Did they?
They did suplexes.
I'm so glad we didn't watch wrestling at home because I couldn't imagine my brothers throwing me around.
You would be throwing them around.
I would get real mean. I would get mad every time because I know they'd be able to do it and they'd just do it just to piss me off. Watch me run around screaming like, Mom! Tell them! I'd go loopy. I'm a bit of a psycho, me. I need to go see someone.
What would your wrestler name be?
My wrestler?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, and in honor of our friend Tony, I think it'd still be British Invasion.
The British Invasion?
Yeah, I think that's what I would.
So you'd be sporting some, like, undies with, like, the British flag on it, and maybe like a bandana?
Nipple covers, depending on where I apply for my job at. I mean, at one point, he was screaming at that girl, get on your knees, back like a dog, take your clothes off, take your bra off. What the heck? What's that? What's that about wrestling?
It's
obviously wanted to get a certain demographic in, but I mean, come on.
That part was a little bit kind of, for me, I get the whole putting on a show and maybe like humiliating someone because, again, you're trying to be the whole bad guy versus good guy type of thing. But you're attracting kids to this show. You're attracting little kids.
Right. There were little kids on front row. Yeah.
And they're watching these things and then they're like, oh, okay, I guess I can like do that to little Susie down the block.
Playground. When I get her down, snick it. Yeah.
That part I don't agree with, but I get the whole putting on a show, even if it's like humiliating someone. Not that I agree with it, but you know how like the $1 Million Man,
pie in your face.
But there was like the $1 Million Man who would go around and he'd fan out a bunch of $100 bills, and then like say when he won, the person's like laying there passed out, and he would stuff a $100 bill in their mouth, and then he'd just kind of like dance over their body, their motionless body, and then he'd even like go down to the audience and maybe like point to someone and be like, all right, like, kiss my muscle for like $100, and they would do it. It's like stupid stuff like that just to get people to do that. So there was like the $1 Million Man. I get the whole like like depraving someone of of dignity, so to speak, for show. But
you could have stopped at back like a dog. Get
right.
down on your knees and back like a dog.
Right, I understand.
Right.
I can't believe I agree with you. Instead of Thuy and Edith argue, the A could be Thuy and Edith agree.
Occasionally.
Correct.
In brackets.
I know. Wow. So finally, the rivalry between him and WCW ended when he purchased WCW in 2001.
Not before they took him off the top spot for 83 weeks.
Right.
Which was what that guy was saying. He said,
rubbing it in his face.
Was it 83 weeks? I think it was 83 weeks. That was funny.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why, in a sense, I like that he got a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah.
He was so ruthless and so like power and money hungry, so ambitious that it was a little bit of like, just desserts, I guess.
Speaking of, I mean, he did the same thing with his daughter, right? I'm just thinking, like, he humiliated his daughter, and I saw her at one point running off the stage, covering up her chest because she didn't have any underwear on.
He exploited his daughter in the sense of a little bit like for show. I don't know how much of it that she knew about ahead of time, but the whole family was in it. Yes. Linda was a part of it.
They all were. I mean, she said she wasn't as good at the acting as the kids were, but I mean, they all loved it. They all loved doing it, obviously, but still, he wrote the scenes. He was this is how it's going, or no,
the creative guy. Yeah.
So, like, all these stories, like, he even said that at one point he wanted to, like, the storyline was he blooming impregnated his daughter.
What?
Yeah. And his daughter said no to that. She said no to that one. I think
wow.
She said that was one of the few things that I said no to.
Right.
But more than not, everything else was yes.
See, again, this reminds me so much. I can't help it. I'm not trying to sound like I'm this or that, but that reminds me so much of Shakespearean plays and storylines, like even like Oedipus Rex, when he didn't know it was like his mother, and he falls in love with his mother, like that type of thing, and has like sexual relations with her. That's why they say like Oedipus complex, things like that. It's like he borrows like these storylines from these go way back. It's not like he's inventing the wheel. He's just rebranding them. He thinks like, oh, okay, that'll captivate people. That's gross, first of all. But yeah, no, his daughter wrestled and then later on married Triple H.
Yes.
Who was a very popular wrestler. I mean, their whole family.
That was a storyline from him too. Like, you go and you pretend to marry her, get married. Like, they went to Vegas or something because she was all passed out and stuff. And that was a part of the storyline. And then they ended up actually getting married after.
Right.
Because they got closer, because they were doing all these things together, because in the WWF, they were supposed to be a team together, married. And that's how they got close.
His wife, Linda, stepped down from being involved in the WWE because she wanted to run for Congress in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
That's why she didn't want to be involved with it anymore. Yeah. And right now, she's actually the current Secretary of Education, appointed by Donald Trump, who you just mentioned earlier. She is the United States Secretary of Education. She's been in politics for a little while.
Good.
Yeah. So she's Republican, and I guess conservative. We talked about her upbringing. Her parents were Baptist. And I don't know if anyone, has asked her, like, what do you feel about your past, your connections with Vince McMahon and whatnot.
What's that got to do? I mean, are they not married anymore?
They're legally still married.
Legally married, but
they separated. But if you really think about it, they only just separated back in like November, December of last year, but supposedly they've been estranged for a while.
Well, was it January of last year that he got that he resigned from the WWE.
Right.
Because he hadn't been charged yet, right? It's just been there's allegations of sexual misconduct and
Right.
other things.
Yeah, the most recent one is a girl named Janelle Grant. She's maybe like in her early 30s, and she's accused him of like, you know, trying to have like sexual advances and things like that. He doubled her salary because I think like for a while she kind of like went along with it, but she was like afraid that if she doesn't, that she would lose her job. So she filed a complaint and this and that. And there's been like a 6-month delay because they want to like do some more investigating and things like that. But it's pretty still current. It's going on. But meanwhile, Linda McMahon, yeah, she took a break from all this wrestling world because she wanted to run for Senate in Connecticut.
So her children still running it, like Stephanie and Triple H.
They still are a part of it.
Part of it, right?
Yeah. He has since sold the company, and I think that they still are like some of the chair people. They're still a part of it in that essence. Now, one of the interesting things I found that when Linda did run for Senate back in like 2009 or whatnot, they said that some news sources say that she maybe lost because news had leaked out that she wrote a letter to one of like the head people in the WWE to basically fire that doctor who was writing all the steroid stuff.
She wrote a letter back in the day, Dr. Z.
Right. Whatever doctor, Dr. Z, Dr. Greg something.
Yeah.
I don't know all the names because there's so many names. There's so many like characters
I know
to keep track of,
right?
right? But basically she wrote a letter to like one of the head guys in the company to say basically like let that doctor go. Now, it didn't say why, like let him go because he's prescribing or illegally prescribing steroids. I don't think it was that condemning, but it was something along those lines where maybe that was one of the nails in the coffin why she didn't win for the race for Senate.
Because of the letter?
I guess.
I don't get that though. I mean, if she wanted this doctor to be gone because he's doing shady business,
then
in
just
her
let him go, right? Yeah.
Right. But the fact that she wrote a letter to say it stopped her from getting a job.
Maybe it was like one of the things, just because there was like just so much like scandal going on.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
you know,
that's understandable. Yeah, no one wants more blooming scandal around them, especially in the government.
Yeah,
Being a politician of any sort, it's going to be. You don't want scandals.
But as of right now, I was looking up like what has Vince been doing since he's retired, since he stepped down, because there's all these allegations still outstanding, like pending. You know, there's no conclusion yet, right?
Well, he hasn't been going to any P. Diddy's white parties because P. Diddy's busy.
He's traveling a lot. He's been going to Italy and he goes to the Turks quite often and Curacao. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know with who, but that's what supposedly the news sources are saying that Vince is doing lately. He's 80 years old, you know.
I was thinking it, and I mean, it doesn't look too bad for an 83-year-old man, you know, like he would
80.
move 80. I don't know why I said 83. I know why I said 83 because I went to see Otis Williams the other day from The Temptations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, still cutting up a rug on that dance floor. He was awesome. He was 83 years old. Anyway, this Vince McMahon.
Yeah, he will be 80 in August.
This August year, coming. Yeah. So he could be in prison for his 82nd birthday, maybe.
I don't know.
I doubt it. He's got a friend in the White House, you know, that can give pardons and stuff.
I don't
know.
But, you know, he claimed to, back in the day, say that Ted Turner had all this money, and so he was, like, using that money to buy all his people.
I know.
So, of course...
It was kind of funny when the other guy was saying he was crying like a little girl. Oh, is he taking my lollipop? That other guy I liked him. from WCW?
Well, I was wondering what his net worth is now because he bought the WCW for like 2.4 million.
I know that's kind of low, right?
It was
a
low
number,
but it was on the decline. It was starting to like lose its momentum from all those like Monday night events.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he bought them so that he can kind of be like the dominant, the ultimate whatever, right? But he bought it for 2.4 million, and right now Vince McMahon has a net worth of 3 billion. That's decent.
Yeah,
It's a chunk of change.
He sold. Who did he sell the WWE to?
He sold it to like Endeavor, like some other like maybe like a group of corporations.
And was it when he bought WCW that they changed the name from WWF, from the World Wrestling Federation, to WWE?
No, that happened previous to that.
Okay.
Because he started just kind of like melding it and molding it, and it was kind of morphing into different things. So, yeah. But I had to look up just to compare Ted Turner's net worth, 2.8 billion. So just shy of Vince McMahon. Back then, he was flaunting his stuff around, right? So
who?
Ted Turner.
Ted Turner?
Yeah, buying up everything.
Eh.
He made some good moves too, you know.
Ted
He came
Turner.
from pretty like humble-ish beginnings. He bought his billboard company from his dad, or he took over, and then he started he bought a television station in Atlanta, started broadcasting some stuff, developed CNN. He started broadcasting Atlanta Braves games because he was right there near Atlanta. He made some good decisions.
Yeah.
He bought up stuff.
I don't have any beef with Ted Turner. I kind of like Ted Turner. He was just. It wasn't even him that was doing the stuff. It was Eric. It was
his right hand guy. Yeah.
So
he put him in management.
He just kept saying his name all the time. It had nothing to do with him at all, which amused Eric. Eric was he was like in his interview. I liked his interview. He was like, yeah, we did this to him, and I couldn't wait to stick the needle in a little bit more, and that were funny.
He actually, his face and everything, he actually reminds me of Coach when I was watching it.
Which one?
Eric. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Eric. Okay.
By the way, Coach called me the boxing ninja. I just wanted to be known as Ninja. He said, hey, you don't get to pick your boxer name. It's assigned to you.
Right.
So he started calling me the punching or the boxing ninja. I'm like, whatever.
Punching ninja.
So I don't know what my wrestler name would be. It wouldn't be the wrestling ninja. That's too like that's generic.
You won't be a ninja at all.
Yeah, I am.
No.
Yeah, I am.
No.
Yeah, I am. Yes, I am.
Thuy's wrestling name. So
the grappling ninja.
Anybody out there can come up with the best wrestling name for Thuy, just write it in the comments below. We would appreciate that. Nothing to do with Spartan, okay? Nothing at all. And you can send those and find us, obviously, on over to you, Thuy.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, anywhere there's your major listening platforms.
Well said.
Did I do that right?
You did it okay.
Wow.
Good effort.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please give us your 2 cents about the wrestling world. Who's your favorite wrestler? What didn't you like?
Yes. What was your favorite episode?
What was your favorite wrestling move?
Have you ever tried any of these wrestling moves? Have you ever been arrested for trying these moves? Have you ever injured yourself whilst trying these moves? Have you ever injured anybody else? Because kids did that, you know.
I know.
Like copying off of the favourites.
I know.
Didn't one kid kill another?
I don't know.
I believe so. There's been court cases.
Kids.
Oh, we can look it up. Kids, don't do it at home.
Yeah.
Parents, you should warn your children before they watch it. Do not attempt these moves at home. They could be lethal.
They can do this move, though. I do it every single time I'm done with my Spartan race. I do the Hulk Hogan.
Is that a Hulk Hogan? Or is that Usain Bolt?
Hulk Hogan did it for years and years before.
Did he?
Yeah.
I saw him doing this, and then he did this, and then he did... And then like...
Hulk did this a long time, and then he would go like this, and he would point to the whole crowd. And it was awesome. And we all did it too. And I always do it every Spartan race. On the podium, when I have my medal and everything,
So
I'll actually include some pictures, and you'll see it right here.
So that's you in honor of your grandma, because she loved Hulk Hogan.
That's a good way of
I
putting it.
don't know why she wouldn't have liked Andre the Giant.
He was a bad guy.
Andre the Giant was not a bad guy.
I know, but sometimes he was. And then when Hulk was the enemy,
that was the one fight where they had to fight Hulk Hogan and
it was
Andre
a big
the
deal.
Giant.
Yeah.
And both of them were good guys, so they were like, who's going to win? Don't know who's going to win.
I guess we can edit this part back into the middle because we already did the conclusion.
All right.
But that was what filled Pontiac Stadium, the Silverdome, right?
Yes.
Was the first Wrestling Mania event.
Yes.
And that was the huge main act. Yes. Yep. Now, people say that Pontiac Silverdome could maximum seat 93,000 people. And they would claim that they seated 93,000 people that night.
93,127.
But they did not.
They did not.
It was actually less than that.
70, I think the other guy said 73,000 or 78,000.
It was something like that. I know that there's also standing room only capacity, but they didn't seat anywhere near that. However, the maximum capacity ever recorded for Pontiac Silverdome was a little over 93,000. And that was in 1987, Pope John Paul II, there was a Catholic mass there. That was the one that was the record attendance. So I like that, like, Vince McMahon would just like beef up and exaggerate his numbers, because that's a showman. That's what you're going to do. You're going to say, oh, it's going to be the greatest show ever. Or, yeah, we sold out that place. Of course, he's got to pump it up.
And what are they on now? 40? 41?
Oh my goodness, something like that. It's ridiculous. It's been going on for a long time.
Anywho.
Thank you for joining.
Bye. Listening today, please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.